Okay, my name is Evan, and this is the third part in a series of videos on civil harassment restraining orders being presented by the Kern County Law Library. As always, we like to start by mentioning that this is just meant to be an information supplement to your own research on this process. This is meant to be something that will shine some light on processes and information specific to Kern County residents, though today we're going to be demonstrating a program that's available statewide for civil harassment restraining order petitions. We link you to it on our webpage, which is kclawlib.org. We have a self-help menu that covers a variety of topics, and that includes civil harassment. And on this page, we talk about common questions like when is it appropriate to request a civil harassment restraining order? When is it not appropriate? What do you do to request it? And we covered that generally in part 2 of this video series. But today we're going to demonstrate one of the options you have to create the paperwork, and that is a program called LawHelp Interactive. So just to be clear, in video 2, we cover the fact that this does not file your paperwork for you, but it can make it simpler to prepare it because it's just going to ask you an interview style series of questions, and it'll use your responses to populate the blank fields on the form. So you answer your questions in this program and it transfers those answers onto the packet of paperwork that you need to start your case. So if you'd rather not contend with just a big stack of forms to try to fill out your civil harassment restraining order request, this program might kind of help bridge the gap and make it a simpler process. So we link you to it right here on our webpage. We will continue to link to it. So if it doesn't look identical to this, just be sure that you look for the link that says click here to access the LawHelp Interactive program. And this is going to be what it looks like on the main webpage for this program. So this is something that's done statewide, and it is something that covers a variety of different uses. So as you see, there's a ton of different things where it can help you fill out your court forms, but the one that we're going to focus on today is the Civil Harassment Restraining Order petition. And when you click that link, you're going to come to a page that looks like this. So on this page, you have two options. And while either one of them is totally fine, there is a recommendation that we have just so that you can save your progress when you're using this program. Creating an account will allow you to save your progress as you go. So if you have to stop before you complete your interview, you can pick back up at a later time. And if you need to log back in to download further forms, you can keep on doing that. Now, I want to stress this is totally optional, but it is completely free and allows you some flexibility in creating your paperwork. You can always do it as a guest without the ability to save, but you can always still download the paperwork at the end of your interview. So just to be clear, it's totally optional to create your account, but I'm going to show you how you can do it and show you the benefit of doing it so that in the event that you are unable to sit down for the full time and use the program to fill out your paperwork, you'll have the option to log back in and complete it at a later time. So first I'm going to go ahead and click log in to get to the account creation page, and then we will go from there. So on this page, if you've already created an account, you can just use your username and password to log in right here. But if you're creating a new account, you're going to go down here where it reads sign up. And for pretty much anybody watching this, you would be doing this as a self-helper. I'm filling out a form for myself. Because this is Kern County focused, of course, it would be California for the state being selected. And with this petition packet, we're going to do something that's so obviously fictitious that there'd be no possibility of you trying to mimic what it is that I'm doing here. Just to show you for the sake of illustration, we're going to have John Doe. Now, just to be clear, you need to use an email address. I'm going to pause the video and fill this in once it's done so that we're not publishing the email address that I use for this process. But we're going to do a username and password here. Now, just bear with me because we might try one that's been used before, but the purpose of this is just to show you that when you're creating your account information, that the username and password are case sensitive and that it's something that you should write down. So we mentioned this in the previous video. And just to give you an example of how to create a username and password, username is going to just be only alphanumeric characters. So you don't do any exclamation points. You don't do any question marks, nothing like that. It's just going to be a username with letters and numbers. So John Doe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, for instance, and then a password. And this is going to have to be something that features an uppercase letter. It's going to have to feature lowercase letters. We'll read the rules. Has to have one number, and this one must have a special character. So in this one, you will have something like an exclamation point, a number sign, a dollar sign, whatever. So because if you're like me, passwords are easy to forget, and if you create one, 10 minutes later, you might have forgotten what it was. So we strongly encourage you when you're creating your password to write it down so that you can access your paperwork at a later time. So with that, I'm going to do the passwords, I'm going to do my security question and do my email address, and I'll be back with you once the account is created. Okay, so I filled in my username, my password, I gave the email that I'm associating with this account, and now you can see that the user was created successfully because we've got John Doe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 up at the top of the screen. So I just want to stress that this is just to demonstrate how this program works and what results you'll get if you take your time and fill in the information on the paperwork, or excuse me, on the interview carefully. Just to show you also how the program functions so that you know how to save your progress and log back in. So right here, you just hit continue once you've been signed in. And you will begin your interview with a couple of questions about where it is you're going to file. Like I said, this is a statewide program, and there's an important question when it comes to filing a civil lawsuit, which is actually what this is. And that's the question of venue. In other words, what is the right county in which to file? So they're going to ask you some questions to help justify your response for why you're filing in Kern County. So I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you'll be filing in Kern, and you would do so by selecting this off of the drop-down menu. And when you select Kern, it fills in all these other pages on the side of the screen that are going to fill in all the information you need on your petition. So right here, it says in what courthouse will your case be heard? When you look at the drop-down menu, it doesn't say Bakersfield, but this means the Bakersfield courthouse. You also have these options for your courthouses, and keep in mind it is your decision which one to file in. If you're a Mojave resident, you want to file there, by all means, select Mojave. I am in Bakersfield, so I'm going to put Bakersfield's Metropolitan Division right here. And they ask, why are you filing in this county? And it says, select all that apply. So one perfectly good reason why you might file in this county is the person who harassed me lives in this county. So if that's the case, you check this box. Maybe they don't live in Kern County, but maybe this is the county where the harassment took place. If that's the case, you check that box. And if both of those are true, they live in Kern County and they harassed me here, you can check both boxes. If you want to provide another reason, you may. Keep in mind that one should be sufficient to make your request. And then if you want to add more beyond that, it is at your discretion, but they do want you to select all that apply. So let's say I live in the 93305 area code in Bakersfield, California, and my next door neighbor harassed me. Well, in that case, it's true that both the person who harassed me lives in this county and the harassment took place in this county. So we'll just leave it at that, and we'll click next to show you that some of the pages in this program are going to be information only. They're going to give you information that they view as essential for you to know before you start this process. And this is one example. This is one that tells you that when you file your civil harassment restraining order, that it's going to be a matter of public record, which means that generally speaking, a member of the public can visit the courthouse and request to see the file. So you have to be comfortable with that before filing your paperwork. And that's just the program informing you of as much. So I'm going to show you now so that you're aware of how you can preserve your progress and be able to log back in and not have to start from scratch, how you save your answers. So if you look to the dark blue bar here, there is an icon with a floppy disk on it. And if you hold on that, you can click it and you will be given this page where you can save your answers. So you click this orange icon You can name your answer file whatever you want. John Doe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 answers is perfectly fine here. And we're just going to go ahead and click Save Answers. And we get this message saying that your answer has been saved successfully. That means that you have retained your progress. And if you need to log out and pick back up at a later time, you can do so. Once you've saved, you click Back to Interview. And then you use the bottom buttons to navigate through the interview. Once you finish up reading the message on the page, you click Next. And now you're going to start providing the information that's going to be filled in on your civil harassment restraining order petition. So they're going to give headings at the top of each page, which tell you what the general subject matter is going to be. And then in the blank spaces, you're just going to give the answers to the questions that they ask here in as straightforward a manner as possible. So just in keeping with the theme of the username, we're going to say first name, John. Middle name, we're just going to say none for the sake of simplicity. If you have one, you can include it. And then last name, Doe. Birth date, we're going to say 1/1/1950. You'll put in your birth date in that spot. Sex, we will put male. Then we're going to put the address for the petitioner. So again, if you're bringing the civil harassment restraining order request, you are the petitioner. So we're going to say 123 Fake Street. So you know not to copy what I'm doing. This is just an example. City, Bakersfield, State, California, zip code 92305. And then as it mentions here, a lot of times the program is actually going to give you some tips and some guidance on what needs filled in and what does not. It mentions right here that the telephone number is optional. So if you're experiencing a pattern of harassment, obviously there's somebody or maybe more than one person who are engaged in a course of conduct that has proved such an issue that you're willing to go to court about it. And like the last slide said, these are going to be public records. So not just the person who you're asking to be restrained, but anybody can go and check out these forms if they make a records request. And that would include, like it says here, your address. So if you want to keep your address private, you can give a different mailing address instead. If you want to keep your phone number off the form entirely, you may. So be sure to read the information on the screen here because it's going to give you some extra guidance on how to complete your paperwork. So to illustrate the point, I'm going to leave this blank. Same with the email address. And now, in order to avoid having anything that I'm doing here copied in any way, just to show you what it looks like when you're done using the program, I'm going to complete this interview with the camera paused, and I'll come back and show you what you do once you've answered all of the questions. So just to recap, every couple of pages, maybe you want to go up and click the save icon, click save answers. So that way you're retaining your progress. So if you do need to leave, you can get back into your program. I'm going to go back to the interview and keep on moving through. So once I have answered all of the questions following the instructions on each page, I will go ahead and show you what you do to generate the packet of paperwork that you'll need in order to start your civil harassment case. Okay, so I've taken some time to fill in a completely fictional scenario in the interview program, and I'm just going to hit next to move through the interview because you should always review at the end to make sure that you've not skipped, missed, or left incomplete any questions that are important for your interview. So we're just going to hit next and keep in mind that it is not important here what my answers are on the screen. This is just to illustrate that you're going to be filling in the information as it requests on the on the interview program to the best of your ability. So we're going to fill in that one because that was left blank, and that's the point of reviewing, is making sure everything has been done in its entirety. So we've just went through and given answers to all the questions that we can. And on this page, I just want to make special note that they're going to ask you some questions here, like they mentioned, that you just might not have on hand. So give what you can. This is the one that's going to be on the page about confidential information about the party you want restrained. It's going to ask you things about their physical description, but it's going to get down to specifics that are so unlikely to be known in certain cases, like their social security number, their driver's license number, that you're bound to have some blank spots on it, but give what you can as best you can. And just again, to illustrate that to complete this program, the specifics on here that I am covering is not what's important. The idea here is to show you that you just answer the questions as they pertain to the facts of your case. And once you are done, you will be on the final screen and be given, you have one unanswered question. This can happen from time to time if you have a blank field where they expect an answer, but perhaps you don't have the information. So once you hit OK after having reviewed the interview, you're going to get this "please wait while your answers are being processed" message, and then you're going to click before anything, save your answers. So you're going to save, click Save Answers down at this bottom portion of the screen. And after that is done, the orange icon vanishes and you can now download your forms. So just to be clear, if you click email your forms, this has been a little bit shaky as a function. So best to download your forms. And once they have completed downloading, you can go ahead and review your content. So it's going to have this cover page, which is not something you need to file. This is just something which tells you what the content is that it's been generated. This is going to be the CLETS form that is submitted to law enforcement that explains who the parties are and who's to be protected by the order. This is called a civil case cover sheet, and this is just a data gathering tool for the court. This is something that you'll file with your paperwork and you will sign in this spot right here. Page 2 is just instructions for how to complete the form. So this is the centerpiece of your civil harassment restraining order. This is your request for civil harassment restraining orders. And this is used to recite the essential facts of your case. That's who is involved, what happened, and what you, the petitioner, want. So as you move through this, you should check and make sure that everything here is accurate and matches the facts that were included on your civil harassment restraining order questionnaire. And as you get to the end, if you had questions that went longer than can fit on the blank spaces of this petition, there are going to be attachments here. So they match the blank fields on the form where they ask you to describe the harassment or whatever you need more space for. And those are going to be attached to your CH-100. Next, you're going to have this notice of court hearing. This is going to be something that notifies both you and the person you want restrained when and where your court is going to be set. This box right here you will leave blank, and the court is going to fill in the information there that tells you when and where your hearing will be set. This form is the temporary restraining order. If you're requesting one, that means that if the court grants it, they'll be signing this document and putting into effect a temporary order that goes into effect for a few weeks until the time of your hearing on a permanent order. And this is going to be several pages. There's nothing much for you to do on this one. This is just going to be submitted with your paperwork. And if the court, again, grants your temporary restraining order, it's going to be one of the packet of documents that you are going to have to serve on the other party. But this is the cutoff point in your packet that gets generated. You'll notice that this document is titled Civil Harassment Restraining Order After Hearing. So just to be clear, this is going to be something that gets filled out after the hearing on the permanent order. So this does not get filed yet. You're going to hang on to this. And if the court listens to you at the date of your hearing, which will happen a few weeks after you file, and they are persuaded that they should grant you a permanent restraining order against the party you want restrained, this would be the document that gets completed to commemorate those terms and make it official so that you can submit this to the court, have the judge sign it, put it into effect, and then you'll have it served on the other party, generally speaking. So just to recap, the temporary restraining order is the last document in the packet from the interview program that you'll need to file at the outset. And to refresh your recollection on what documents need filed, you can go to our webpage or review our last video just to make sure you have a complete set. And of course, you can always come into the law library if you would like to check with us to make sure you have a complete packet ready for filing. One last thing I'm going to show you before this video concludes is how you would log back in the event that you need to get back in and edit your responses or download more forms. So you can see in the top right corner of the screen, you've got this log out function. So if you click that, you will log out and your time in session will end. So I've got another search screen here where I've typed in LawHelp Interactive Login. And we're going to make sure that's not spaced. If you select that as your search option, the first result in the Google search should be the login screen for LawHelp Interactive, at which point you're going to fill in your username and password. So in one moment, I'm going to get us signed in and I'll show you how you can retrieve your responses. So once more, I want to mention that you need to be careful that you use a case-sensitive letters for your username and password. So we capitalized the J and the D in John Doe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like so. And for the password, that is also case-sensitive. So if you capitalize any of the letters, you need to make sure they are capitalized. And once you click submit and log in, this will be the screen that you see. And after a moment, the program will populate this little graphic down here that reads answers. You click the little box with the upward pointing arrow to log back in. And this will allow you to go back into your interview and edit your responses if you need to. So if you start your interview and you need to suspend it for any reason, you have other business to tend to, something interrupts you, you can always go back in. You just need to be able to do so using your username and password like I just showed you. So with that, if you would like to make use of this program, follow the prompts that we gave during this video, and you should be able to complete your civil harassment restraining order petition using this LawHelp Interactive program to help minimize the likelihood of errors in your drafting.